Hey, this is a channeled timeless collective reading for you whenever you see it. Got channel messages that came through ahead of time, and my spirit guides, the angels and source who brought those messages through, will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we roll through these. So, first message that came through for you, they're jumping through a different message. They're showing me they're giving me the word building. They're showing me like a skyscraper just sprouting out of the ground. Interestingly enough here. So, what's the message here with the building? It's not where I thought this was going, but the thing they're showing me as I sit with the message is it's showing this like bridge between two worlds, and all of a sudden there's like this planet behind this building, which is really interesting here. I feel like if you're switching something up or making a change, or you feel like you're moving to a new world in some way, shape, or form, metaphorically, I feel like that's a good move first and foremost. I actually feel like that is the move. Might not apply to all of you, but probably will apply to many of you is what I'd say. So I feel like if you're switching your world up, that's a great idea. And that could mean, switching your career. I feel like I say this every now and then, but switching your career, switching something up in your world, something like that. If you're moving your trajectory around, such as like where you're aiming, like your dreams or your targets, especially if you're setting them higher, or if you're realizing something about them or realizing something about what you need or desire and you're changing them, that's okay, is something I'm getting as well. You don't always have to be aiming towards the same things in life your whole life, if that makes sense for whoever needs to hear that. So the first message that came through ahead of time, they showed me a spider, and they showed this spider getting like a limb chopped off. It was really interesting. And the message was like, there might be a lot, and this isn't a bad message, but there might be a lot that's getting like extricated from your life, especially things that no longer serve your highest good. And if this hasn't already been happening, I feel like this could be happening soon. And that you'll be in a different place, each of you. Like some of you, it's already been happening. Some of you, it will happen. But it's a necessary operation for you to thrive. If things are getting removed, it's really to enable success long term, and maybe even immediately for some of you. You're getting things removed so you can succeed. So some of you have something like leaving your world, and that's okay, is something I'm getting. It's not going to be all of you, so don't freak out when I say this, but for some of you, it could be like a relationship or a friendship. Could even be like, they're showing me someone like a boss that's leaving, weirdly enough, but it's like, it's going to be okay. What I'm just hearing is it's time for change, and if things are changing, it's actually not a bad thing, if that makes sense, whenever you're seeing this. So whatever is leaving, it's for your highest good that it's leaving, if that makes sense, if anything like that is happening. And it's weird because they're showing this spider like in this scenario, and I don't know if this is true for all bugs or spiders or anything like that, but it's like worried about getting its limb chopped off, but the limb grows back. And I don't mean to say like if something problematic or that doesn't serve you leaves you, it's just going to grow back or come back, and or something like that. It's like something that will serve your highest good and will serve you will replace what leaves, if that makes sense, of course. So keep that in mind. They're also talking about negativity leaving. So many of you have been like dealing with a negative energy that's going away or something like that. And that could be what this is referring to as well. They're also clarifying this isn't a message to worry about. Sometimes we have these stories like, oh, I'm going to lose, you have a story that you might lose something important when a message like this shows up, but that's not necessarily true. It could be something that you've been desiring to leave your life, if that makes sense, without harming anybody necessarily. But next message that came through was a whale, and they showed this whale like jumping out of the water and, belly flopping as whales do on the water, and like making a gigantic wave. And the message is that you are going to be making waves. I'll read this. They said you are going to be making waves either through a change you're making or something you are building. If you're building anything, it could be something else as well. But making waves is going to lead to success. So it could be at a job, in your career, or just somewhere else, like a positive wave. So aim to make waves to boost your position, but do it. And, you don't have to go out there like raucously, if that's the right word, if I'm pronouncing that right. I think I've only read that word now that I think about it, so I might be grossly mispronouncing raucously, but it doesn't have to be like you're causing, I don't even know if this is what it means, causing a racket or punching people in the face to do this. But if you're doing it like gently and with love, or in a way that's for the highest good at the very least, that would be probably ideal. And again, if you're looking to make changes, I feel like that could be a good idea if it feels aligned to you. And one way, shape, or form, the main message is you're going to be making waves, especially if you're doing work on yourself with something they added in as well. So if you're making changes or if you're doing work on yourself or if you're just somehow going to be making waves through positive change or something, that's going to be good. Next, there's more with whale though here. I feel like if you're making waves, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And that can change people. And we're going to have to get into a bit more of a clarification on this, but the consciousness of the planets and people around you, if you're making positive waves right now, and it could just be like posting on social media or something like that, that's hopefully changing people's lives for the better, or doing something that's helping people and you're attaining some type of success, like that can make waves all on its own just through the impact it has. So it could even be something like that, like you're having a positive impact, but I just feel like you're going to be making waves in some way, but it's positive is what I'm hearing. Next, they showed me a badger, and they kind of showed, we're talking about how badgers are like scavengers and like scrappy. And when I really tuned in, I just sat with this message for a second, and they showed the badger and it's like badger hole, but like all these like resources were kind of just coming into the badger. It's so funny trying to explain the intuitive visuals I get, because these resources were like glowing with like light and magic and flowing in from source to this badger and his badger hole. But the message was that all you need will be supplied. You're not going to be at a loss. You might feel like you're losing a lot, some of you, but I don't feel like you actually are. It's like you're actually going to be gaining a lot. So kind of like that first message, like there might be certain things being extricated or pulled away, or you might feel like you're losing things, but you're not. Some of you aren't losing anything. You're actually just going to be gaining. So take it as it resonates. But the main message is what you will be supplied with all you need, and then some, actually, or way more even. And you know what? It's okay to ask for more. If you're like scared, this might be for like two of you or one of you, if you're like scared to manifest more or to like create more in your life or to have more than you need, like that's okay. You're not taking away from anybody by having abundance. And in fact, it puts you in a better position to help others, because then you have more to give, or you're giving from a stable place instead of being like, this is my last dollar, here you go. So I don't know if I recommend that necessarily, unless you feel intuitively guided to. But just do what you feel called to do. I'll trust you to make the right choices in your life, hopefully. Next message, they showed me there's more with badger here though. I feel like some of you are afraid of losing out in life, like you won't attain success or you won't get what's for you. And I feel like you will, is something I'm getting, especially if you're working towards it and you're creating your reality and you're manifesting it, again, working towards things. I feel like you will have more than you bargained for regarding like manifestations, a lot of you, not less. And maybe you're used to getting less or like feeling like you do, but you're not going to, is what I'm getting as well, which is fantastic. I feel like you have a lot gravitating towards you, like abundance, things you're manifesting, at least over time. So, and if you feel like you're in lack, it's not going to be the case like forever. Like, again, the universe will supply you what you need and what you desire, and we don't need to limit. Okay, so the next they showed me a starship, and they gave me the word light speed. They just said, we've kind of been hinting at this the whole reading, but rapid change is coming. So you're going to find a lot of like change coming into your world soon. I feel like this is in like every area, and it's over time. I feel like there's a lot that's gonna be happening quickly, like in the next month is what I'm hearing, or next 2 months maybe, and from whenever you're seeing this. And besides that, I just feel like every area is going to be changing over the next year or the next couple of years, like from whenever you're seeing this. And so that's like where the over time part comes in. But I feel like it's going to kickstart pretty soon here. I feel like you're going to like this. It might be a lot at times to like let go of certain things, bring certain things in, like the way your reality kind of swivels and changes and bring things in. But it's actually what you need. And I feel like things moving faster is actually a good thing, because it's going to allow big things to show up sooner. Whereas before, like 10 years prior, even maybe you would have had to wait like 10 years for something to manifest, but now it can manifest in like 2 or 3 or something like that, if it's like a humongous thing. And you know what? We don't need to limit it. Maybe something huge can show up overnight. But as far as what the message is that I'm getting as for you is what I was just saying. So things like that. So I would allow things to change quickly and not try to constrain them or put a stranglehold on them. you're going to be much happier if you allow things to flow and shift and leave and come in and just kind of be the, I guess, the witness of that, or the words I'm hearing, interestingly enough. Next, they showed me a grasshopper. And so sometimes I get this message, but it's just time to take a leap away from like the old. I heard it's past time to make changes for most of you. So if there's a change you know you need to make, do it. It's time. Especially if you've been holding off on a change or keeping it at arm's length, or like, you're like, you want to do something or you kind of want to do it, but you're not sure and you're kind of iffy. And they're just like, if it's not going to kill anyone and it's not going to ruin your life, you might as well try it first and foremost. For others of you, like, you need to leave some type of negative situation and you need to just do it. It's kind of what I'm getting. And yeah, if you don't feel like you're in position to it, double check with your intuition and like double check, like, okay, do I have the resources to make this move? If it's going to be something you need to double check. But I would trust yourself, honestly. It's just time to leave old things behind that no longer serve, as I've been saying. Or I've been getting to say here. Next, they gave me the word, there's more with this here. I mean, some of you know the leap you need to make and you just haven't been doing it. I'm just getting like, you should do it. It's time to do it soon. If you don't feel like it's now, it's probably soon. Next, they gave me the word heavy, and they showed me like an anvil, or like, those cartoon like weights, and they have like that kg on it, like the kilograms on it, like in Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny and stuff. There's a message that a lot of heaviness is leaving. So they also showed like dark storm clouds, like parting and the sun shining through. So you do have a lot to move. Okay. But you do have to the recommendation is to move forward though. So as like heaviness lifts, or like certain burdens lift, or worry or concern lifts, maybe you have a wish being granted that will lift some burdens, is something I'm hearing, interestingly enough. Able to, like, you'll be able to like move more because the heaviness is gone, or it might be easier or to move. So like, I feel like all the heaviness will lift regardless, but if you like move forward, once you notice like certain heaviness or something, or obstacles or something lifted, it's going to really capitalize on the energy and allow for less heaviness in the future. I don't feel like any of it's coming back necessarily anyways, but they're just saying like, trust us. You really would like to move forward once things get lighter, because it's just going to be like potentially easier and breezier for you. I don't know. I'm just sharing it's going to make the most of that energy. So I would consider that. Next, so they kind of went a little bit further. They gave me the word weight. They just said that a heavy cycle is closing. So that's why certain things are leaving. So this is really going to like birth a brand new cycle. That's beautiful and light is what I'm hearing. So the heaviness is done. And they're showing like heavy lifting being done as well. Like someone lifting a really heavy like weight, some type of bodybuilder dude. And I guess he could have a mustache. I don't know. And he's putting it down. And yeah, I don't know if you're like really curious about what he looked like, but he looked like almost like a cartoon, but just oiled and like tan, and yet he kind of had a mustache. I guess he was wearing like an bright orange muscle shirt and like cargo shorts. I don't know, but if you had to know, but he put this weight down. And I'm just getting the message like the heaviness is over. So if you've been going through a lot of heavy things, or maybe it was heavy things in the past, it's just time for a lighter period. I feel like it's time for more ease, which is fantastic. And sometimes when heavy cycles close, you're not expecting it. It's just like certain things, just like heaviness evaporates, or certain things evaporate, certain like worries go, and you're just like, oh, this is different. So I feel like you've done enough heavy lifting that you can have ease, is what I'm getting, which is I like that. That's good. Next, they showed me a rain cloud, and they said if you are willing to flow with the changes ahead, it's leading you to better. So we already kind of talked about that. Like allowing change, flowing with change is going to lead to better. Next, they just said you are not going to lose anything important, just what's for the highest good to go. We kind of already covered that. They just wanted to clarify that in case you were worried about, what's leaving. And the last thing they kind of showed me was that ahead of time, you are going to be flying to a new destination. So I think I already talked about this as well. You might be changing your trajectory, or like setting your sights higher. It might be a new opportunity that kind of leads you down a hidden road that you didn't see as like a possibility for your life. And like that leads, to better. And sometimes I want to clarify, I feel like we can always know. I think when you take that stance, you open that possibility more at the very least. And we all know. I want to say we all have knowing, we all have the possibility and the potential to know anything. And I think the more that you create that and manifest that for yourself, the more you can create that for yourself in the world instead of buying limitation from other people, that you can't know some certain things. All that being said, don't beat up on yourself if you feel like you don't know all the time. You're still working on your gifts and abilities or things like that. That's okay. I wanted to clarify this before I got into this message because I feel like you can know anything and you can get that message of what would be most fulfilling and head that direction. I do. At the same time, sometimes, people don't realize what is going to be fulfilling to them. So they might think being a master chef in a highest ranked restaurant in, like, I don't know, Brooklyn or something is going to be what brings them the most fulfillment and joy, but they might get there and feel totally empty and miserable. But sometimes the universe might unveil to them, like, oh, here's this thing that brings you joy. You should head this direction. And maybe it's like helping people in a food kitchen, which sounds, I don't know, it's just the example popping in. And it doesn't have to be seemingly smaller like that either. It could be a big thing or a business you build that brings you fulfillment, of course. All that they're really trying to get to here, though, is you might have some surprises coming that bring you fulfillment, but you're not expecting them to bring you fulfillment, or you might have like a hidden opportunity or road that gets unveiled to you that brings you some type of fulfillment if you're open to it. That's different than what you're expecting. And I'll tell a story, and it's not, I'm borrowing it from someone else. It's from Lee Harris, who's another channeler, which I like a lot of his work personally, but one of the stories he had was he went to this event before he started doing readings for people and starting his work with, I suppose, spiritual work more. And there was this whole story where he went to this event and the person who was facilitating this event was doing this thing where he's like, hey, God knows what is like the best plan for you, perhaps more than you realize what that is currently. So who's willing to say, God, use me for, and so as his story goes, if I'm paraphrasing a little bit, if I remember correctly, he talks about how there were like a bunch of people who were like fans of this person who was presenting, and they're like, oh yeah, God, use me. And they seemed like happy. And then there were a bunch of people who kind of had their arms crossed, like, no, I think I would like to do this thing. That's my plan, and da 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 da. And then there were people in the middle, and he was one of those people kind of in the middle. And like, one thing he noticed was like the people who were up front by the stage, like very happy and joyful, and the people with their arms crossed just seemed a little bit more miserable, I guess. Maybe not his exact words. So I think he ended up doing that. He's like, okay, God, spirit, source, whatever his name he used for God at the time was, use me. And then like 6 months later, he ended up doing readings for people, and it spun into his whole like spiritual career, if that makes sense. So you don't necessarily have to do that exact thing where you're like, God, use me, you know what's best for me, you know the best plan for me, use me for the highest good, etc. And as his story went, like a lot of the things he was looking to get out of what his aspiration at the time had been prior to that event, he got out of the work he ended up doing with spirituality, like readings, and eventually he has a whole, career doing what he does now, and he's pretty successful with what he does. And you can like Google him or YouTube him, and you'll see. But the point is, sometimes we have this idea of what we want, and we're dead set on it, and maybe it'll bring us fulfillment, but maybe there's something better. So you might, what would be highest much for me to say here? I mean, you guys get it, obviously, is what I'm hearing. So you can consider saying, God, show me the highest and best plan for me. God, whether you want to say, or source, for the highest good, use me for what, or something like that. And it's not like you're being used and abused or anything like that. So, God's source is infinitely intelligent, infinitely wise, all-knowing, kind, merciful, compassionate, like all the good stuff, of course, that you would know if you tuned in, and most of you do. So if you use spirits or source instead, that's fine, as long as it doesn't matter to me or to source or whatever. Not whatever, but So consider that there might be a path for you that's better. Some of you are already on the right road and like the right path, and you don't need to worry about it. You know what's fulfilling to you, and that's great. That's perfect. Others of you who are a bit confused, just be open, I'd say, to like what's for you and God's plan for you. And that could lead to better and more fulfillment than trying to force things to go a certain way right now, which is not the answer for anything, is what I'd say at the moment. It might lead to a bit more mess than you'd like, and maybe even like starting over in some ways is what I'm getting. So just keep that in mind. So that's kind of it for the reading. I hope that little rant at the end, or whatever that was helpful in some way for you, even though they told me to talk about it, so I did. But that's about it. They're showing me a cricket as well. They're just kind of leading into the same message that they had for grasshopper, like it just could be time to take certain leaps right now, if you know what that is. So I hope that was helpful. Did whatever was for the highest good for you. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram, or you can sign up for my free newsletter for channel messages on the month ahead, and news on what I have going on if you feel called to that, if that feels light to you. And beyond that, I'm wishing you well, and I will see you on another post.